Good morning. Rob Brown, Memphis, Brendan Martin, Ocala, the safe place, the safe city. Brendan, how are you this morning?
Safe. I don't know how safe it is, but I
Yeah.
don't make it. I make it dangerous. That's what I do.
Yeah, you make it.
It's
Well,
dangerous because the Gators are right up the road and they're going to play tonight. So it's
saw Todd Golden on last night being interviewed with two of his kids about the SEC tournament. Thinks they should be a number one seed. Hell yeah, they should be. They're a great team. 4 losses, and I think they were 30th in the preseason. You can make him a good argument for somebody's coach of the year too. Rob Brown, we're going to have the Friday College Roundtable. Frank Duffy in Oaklawn over in Hot Springs, Arkansas at the track. He's got a new filly. Going to be watching that. Doug Dean in Birmingham, the Magic City. Coach John Brady in, I'm guessing, either Nashville or Baton Rouge. Before we do it, Brendan, take a picture. They need to take a picture of this QR code.
just pull up your camera. Picture will come up and it'll say, "Would you like to go to this website or go here?" You say yes, and then when you get there, hit the like and follow, the subscribe button. You'll be at Twitter. If you're on Twitter, just follow us. You get all the notifications when we are live. We got lots happening, you guys. We haven't announced it much, but we are adding more and more shows. It's just going to be awesome. I mean, it really is. As they said in the movie. What's the movie? It's all happening. It's all happening. It's all happening right now. So
you're right. And what folks, having a producer like Brendan Martin is kind of like Don Ohlmeyer when he came on ABC Sports. He first got to take the cameras from way up high down to field level. This is the guy that was streaming in 2008. His father thought he had horns coming out of the side of his head. What are you doing?
He still thinks I have horns coming
out
of my head, but that's right.
You're smart. You're a unicorn in this business is what you are.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Hey, spring break right now. Basketball. I love this time of year, Brendan. And is that a Dunkin' coffee thing there?
It's Dunkin', bro.
Yeah, there you go. All
DoorDash.
DoorDash.
Yeah, and by the way, we have an announcement. I haven't told you about it, but we want everybody. Rob, you're going to fill it out. Everyone's going to fill out. It's going to be fun because we're going to be like an Auburn, Florida sort of rivalry that we're going to end up doing. But we've got your brackets here. And we want everyone to fill out brackets because if you fill out brackets and you're an Auburn fan or you're a Florida fan, this Ernie Sports Award thing is pretty cool. Buddy has gotten on it with him and I. But it's a very simple concept, and we're all going to, me, you, Rob, everyone's going to fill it out, and we're going to compete. So if you're an Auburn fan or if you're a Florida fan, you go to that link right there. It's just click on fill out my brackets, and then it goes away. The winner of the brackets, whoever team that you're on or whatever, you get a big trophy. There's like a $5,000 reward. So anyways, if you want to support us, support what we're doing, download a bracket and join with us. So it's called Ernie Sports. We'll tell you more about it here.
I love this. Yeah,
it's going to be fun. It's really going to be a fun thing. All you got to do is click on the QR right there. Doesn't obligate you to anything. And let's see, buddy just texted me. He said, let's see. Make your official SEC sidelines Gator bait picks or Auburn Tigers picks, whichever team that you're on, and earn money in our brackets. So you can earn real money. I think winner's getting $5,000. Winning team gets a trophy in that town into a bar that you go to. So it's a really big deal. So check it out. Support us. Do a bracket. We'll all have fun with it, and we'll talk more about it. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that.
Brendan, listen. The bracket challenges are so much fun.
This is like our office pool. I wanted us to have an office pool, so this is kind of Ronnie's doing it. So Ronnie Sanders is the one that got us to do it. So we're all kind of doing it. It's going to be a fun thing.
That's right. I mean, we do them always every year. I fill them out for even my pets. They take the animal mascots whenever possible. So
yeah, and this one's got real cash prizes, and I think, like I said, the winner takes like $5,000 or something. So it's a good thing. So it's fun. So anyway,
it gets people to follow every game. I can tell
absolutely.
You that. Like owning, even if you own 5 shares of a stock like Coca-Cola, you'll pay attention to how many people drink Coke. Hey. Look who we got, man. Coach John Brady should be on about 15 after. We got over in Oaklawn, Hot Springs, Arkansas, right just west of us.
Yes, sir.
Maybe about an hour and a half from here. No, hour and about 2 hours from here. Frank Duffy, Doug Dean in Birmingham.
Look at those horses in the
Morning,
background,
Doug.
Duff.
Awesome.
Duff, look at those horses in the background, buddy.
What-
Bet on Glue Factory to place.
So listen,
Elmer's for 10 to place.
Yeah.
I was a little
Glue-
close to that racehorse industry not too long ago there, so
Yeah,
I don't know. You got a tall order there, man.
It's a tough game. Ain't no lie about that, man. So we got our little filly, well, big filly. She's a hoss. She's running today. It's her debut here in the 10th race. And as bad as the weather is lining up, as soon as she finishes and I hit the finish line and go get my picture taken in the winner's circle and cash my tickets, I'm getting my S550 and I'm heading east. I'm trying to beat the damn storms out of here because it's going to be a bad one over here.
Yeah, we've had the most extreme weather in America here. A few weeks ago, we had our second winter storm of the year. We only had like 5 inches. That first one in January, we had 9 inches. So and then we get the tornadoes and the hail. 2-inch hail tonight. So yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Well, let me tell you, if you guys haven't been over here, you need to come on over to Oakland.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic location. First of all, Hot Springs, Arkansas is one of my favorite places on the planet. You got the hot baths. You've got great restaurants. Nightlife's pretty good. Also, what's really cool is the history is fantastic. This was the first Las Vegas in America. This was Las Vegas before Las Vegas, right? All the mobsters and all the politicians would come in, and it was an open city, which meant that nobody could take it over. This is where their playground was. In fact, I'm actually writing a play called Old Timers Day about a group of old. And by the way, spring training used to be here. It wasn't in Florida. It wasn't in Arizona. Yeah. It was right here in Hot Springs, so the guys could recover in the hot baths from working out. But I've got a play that I'm writing called Old Timers Day about a group of old ball players who don't get pensions, who knock off one of the big gangsters' location and steal all their casino money. So I'm working on that right now. But I love
Break
Hot
the
Springs.
house.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I love it.
Keep writing. Hey, they've got that Ricky Ricardo box there at the Arlington in the steam bath downstairs, right. Frank. One time we were over there, my friend Chris Big Daddy Lynch. It was a bachelor party. We were over there for about 3 straight days. We had a guy driving us around, and Lynch got in that Ricky Ricardo box, and all you could see was his head and the steam coming out of there. He got it out. He goes, I thought I wasn't going to make it.
Well, you do realize that Al Capone had better security than Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
In the Arlington, he had the secret exit out the back way, down underneath the street over to a garage across the street, which is now a museum, literally to get away. Yeah. And they said the only thing that Bill had, though, he had a big closet to hide all the girlfriends if Hillary ever would come up.
Hey, it's a wild time. God, that's a beautiful background.
It is. It's gorgeous.
We're going to dial in on we got some basketball going on, guys.
Yes, sir.
Last night, God, that's gorgeous. Last night, I'm watching.
That's cold, Kentucky.
How about
dang.
So we'll start from the beginning. You know, Arkansas loses at the buzzer to Ole Miss, and Cal's pretty light about it, but that 83-80, and then you close out during A&M double overtime against Texas, Missouri, Mississippi State, not as exciting, but I think they're both safely in. But then you watch Oklahoma, desperate, Porter Moser in his 4th year, trying not to get left out, and damn Big Blue Nation shows up, and
they always do. They always do.
0.5 seconds. Yeah,
we need Kentucky to lose. Auburn does to have a chance on Sunday if they can get there.
And boys, Bama better be on alert. Bama better be on alert.
I think Kentucky's the hot one of the. Florida and Kentucky may be the. Alabama's hot. Auburn's trying to regain heat, but the Kentucky looks hot right now.
I think the chalk wins out today, but I think the one that's going to be the problem is that last game is going to be Alabama and Kentucky. I think Alabama's hitting them at the wrong time.
Well, Nate Oates was on last night, and that's one of the most competitive people in coaching. So is Bruce Pearl. Todd Golden is scary competitive, but he's very calm. This top to bottom.
He needs to eat a steak. Golden does.
He needs to gain a little bit of weight. Yeah, how about the old 96er? Man, that
22-ounce porterhouse and some baked potato.
By the way, I went to Outback last Sunday just to pick up something. They have a 22-ounce porterhouse with all these sides and everything, and that's a good steak. That's actually
if you cook it right. It's too easy to make it shoe leather.
Yeah. If you got to cook it right, they cooked it right. But look, Frank will come back with us. But Doug, watching, and that was a great show we had on AU Undercover Wednesday with you and Kevin Skarbinski, Tucker Osborne, Ronnie Sanders, the whole team. And now we got Coach John Brady here with us. Coach, Duffy's over at Oaklawn. If you saw him, he may have been trampled by a horse. He's over there watching one of his fillies run. But there was nothing exciting on TV last night at that SEC tournament.
Nothing at all.
God, it's about as good as it gets.
You needed some no-dos for that late one, but they kept you awake last night.
Yeah. Coach, are you still in Nashville?
Heck no, man. No, we didn't last very long.
I thought maybe you would hang around to see other coaches or whatever.
Yeah, well, I came back. I had to do some things in Baton Rouge.
Because
I'm gonna leave here end of the month, go back down to Fort Myers. But you look at our game. The LSU game was the only game that didn't come down to a 5-minute game. The rest of them have been really exciting games to watch, and it's probably been as exciting an SEC tournament so far that I've ever seen. So, and the games today are intriguing as well. So it's a great show they're putting on in Nashville, and the crowds are there.
Yeah, and Doug, what he's saying? Yeah, he's froze. I hope he'll come back with us. But Doug, watching from what I've seen, he's right. I can't remember a deeper field than what we've got. That's probably why it's so exciting, Coach. That we lost you there for just a second, but you were talking about it's the most exciting tournament that you think you've ever seen.
Yeah, and coupled with the enthusiasm that Pope has created at Kentucky. I mean, when we played up in Lexington a few weeks ago, that's as electric a crowd as I've ever seen in Kentucky in a good while, and they've come out in droves in Nashville. Good gracious, it's unbelievable. So. I was impressed with Mississippi State's following as well when we played them. They had a nice crowd, so it's a special time for the SEC and the best it's ever been from top to bottom. Now, I think there's some better teams that have played in the SEC over the years, but in terms of the depth, it's really incredible.
Yeah. Coach Doug Dean in Birmingham, good to see you, my friend. Better days ahead for LSU. They've got such a proud basketball tradition. Whoever the coach is going into next year, I would feel some heat just looking across the aisle at LSU women's basketball. What Kim Mulkey's doing is unbelievable. But I couldn't help but think last night, and it goes to NIL and transfer portals. Only Oklahoma, and it's happened to a few others, could appreciate in the span of just a couple of months to have Otega Owe make a soul-crushing buzzer beater score and do the exact same thing again last night. And if I was Oklahoma, you want to try to be classy and mature, but I would circle the Kentucky program as a dark enemy, and next time I could whip them in recruiting, which it takes money, it's not easy to do. I would be permanently PO'd after watching that go down. Great player.
Yeah, it's incredible what's happened. But hey, it's college basketball. I think it's as good as it's been in terms of being able, from a fan and even from a former coach like me, to watch it. It's been really incredible, and the coaching in the league's really good, and I think it's a special time. I'm excited about watching the games today.
Coach, you're the perfect former coach analyst to educate myself, our viewers on this. I think I heard every single coach, there might have been one exception, urging his team offensively to drive it to the rim in Nashville. And I wondered that is probably a strategy a lot of games, but it feels like more so with some of these teams playing 2 and 3 days in a row. theoretically one could play 4 days in a row if they're good enough to make it to Sunday. But what is the strategic point of that? Because we've got great shooters on most of these teams that can light it up outside the arc, but you hear the coach on a timeout urging them. I told y'all, take it to the rim, drive it into the paint. Can you educate us on that strategically when it's tourney time, like in Nashville?
Well, I'm not sure it's just tourney time. I think it's a good strategy anyway. You know, a lot of people are getting out and covering hard. There's two ways to beat pressure to me. One is to back cut it, and the other is to drive it. And also with shooters on the wings and shooters in the corners, if you drive the ball and you create defensive rotation, I think that's what they're looking for. You know, when you drive the ball, you get by your man, somebody's got to come help, and then they read the help, kick it to the guy that's open in the perimeter, or on a closing defender, he makes the extra pass, and there's somebody wide open after the second pass out. So and plus, I've always thought late in the shot clock, put your head down and drive it and make something happen, because most of the time you either get a foul or you create some rotation in defense and you kick it out and you hit an open three. So I think it's a good strategy with any offense to drive the ball to the goal from time to time, and there's no charging now. Nobody calls a charge anymore. It's always, it's a block foul now. They've kind of taken the charge out of it, so it increases the value of driving the ball if they're not going to call the charge anymore.
Coach, I mean, looking at what you just said, everybody seems like they run the same offense. You push it inside, kick it back out. Somebody's going to flip that narrative. I mean, everybody can't be right at the same time. And I think there's one team right now that has, and that's Florida, with 5 big guys that can run up and down the court. Walter Clayton Jr. out there. They're I'm not saying they're a throwback team, but they're different.
Well, Florida, and you and I've talked a lot. I think Florida's got good balance. They can play inside, they can play out. They've got excellent guard play, good size in their guards. They've got guys around the basket who can rebound the ball and score it off the post. Plus, his bigs can step out there and make a three, so they stretch you out pretty good as well. But I like the Florida team because I think everybody on their team's a threat to score. He brings guys off the bench. They rebound it well. They've got a good way about them, and there's not they don't have periods of inconsistency because they have so many weapons. So I've liked the Florida team from day one, and I'll be shocked if I'm not saying they're going to win this tournament here. I don't know who's going to win this SEC tournament, but I will be shocked if Florida's not playing a couple of weeks into the NCAA tournament.
That would be Sweet 16, Elite 8, Coach?
Yeah, I think Sweet 16 at the minimum, and you get the right draw and you play in the right area. You never know.
All matchups.
Matchups become a factor, and then making big shots. I reflect back on a couple of our good teams, and we were just able to make big shots at the right time. So a lot of things have to go your way, but certainly Florida's got the tools. And look, that guy can coach a little bit too. You look at late game situations and out of bounds under or side out of bounds plays, which I judge a coach by. Shoot, he's pretty good, and they got coaching and good players. And I've always said good coaching and good players make for really good teams. So
if Florida, and I don't know how the brackets will look. It's possible that Florida and Auburn could meet in the Final Four semi. I think I've got that right. If Florida keeps the fourth 1 seed, I think they would be. If they win Sunday, it might be higher. But you got Luke Skywalker going against Darth Vader, little Todd Golden, a protege of Bruce Pearl and others. But I don't think Bruce wants that matchup for a bunch of reasons, like you just covered.
I don't think Bruce Pearl gives a rat's ass about who he matches up with. I think
give him some love, Coach.
I think old Bruce loves every challenge that comes his way. I think that's what makes him pretty good. He doesn't really care. So he's just worried about his team and how it's going to play, regardless of who he's coaching against and all that sort of stuff.
Needs to be said. We'll get Duffy in. We're just relieved to see you didn't get trampled by a horse, Duff. Gosh, it's heartbreaking to see Cooper Flag go down. It looks, unfortunately, negative on any X-ray as far as fractures go, and it looks almost identical to that ankle injury Janai Broome went down with against South Carolina. So fingers crossed for all the fans that if whoever makes the Final Four, that we get to see these elite players like Flag, Broome, and there's a bunch of others, Mark Sears, and Clayton at Florida. But injuries this time of year, Coach, when you're in Nashville, you're going to try to win. If they're giving away a trophy, you're going to try to win it, but you have to hold your breath if you're a high seed for a few days, don't you?
Well, that's part of being able to win a national championship is you have to be lucky a little bit, and part of the luck involved is, stay away from injuries that can cripple your team. And we'll see how that plays out. But fortunately, they'll have a little break, and I think they can get by a first round game if he doesn't play. So I think the timing of it, if you're gonna get hurt right now, and he won't play for another week. So they've got a chance to maybe get him right and get him back. But he is a special talent. Wow,
Isn't he? Yeah, he
Yeah.
sure is.
Hey, buddy, how
Hey,
you doing,
speaking of
man?
Rob, speaking of legends, you got Duffy right here, man. You got to get my man. You got to get him.
That's right. Hey,
That guy
Coach,
there.
I'm letting all these good questions go in before I tell you we're way overdue for another bottle of red wine on that balcony, brother. Whenever you're ready, come on down, man.
Hey,
Hey,
where are you? Where are you, Frank?
so John,
He's
here's
at
the funny
Oaklawn.
part. Here's the funny part. So I, of course, I march in the Irish Channel Parade as every good New Orleanian of Irish heritage does, and they canceled it on us this year because of the weather. So I decided to come over here to Oaklawn in Arkansas to watch our filly run. I got a brand new filly that's going to race today. It's her debut, and I'm hoping we can break a maiden on the first time out. And then I got to get in my car and get the hell out of here before these tornadoes start popping around. I'm heading back east.
I thought this was a sports show. This is the life of the rich and famous.
I wish, man. I wish, buddy.
I just hope Duffy doesn't big league me once he's famous with a thoroughbred and say, hey, I don't think we've ever met, Doug. Who are you?
Hey, let me tell you.
I don't recall.
Let me tell you, so far the ink has been red. It ain't been black. these things are black.
Would you agree, Duff? That's a speculative investment, right?
It is beyond speculative. Yeah. It's a stupid investment, is what it is. But we love doing it. It's a passion. And look, let me tell you something. As fun as the races are in the afternoon, it's much better to be out here in the morning watching them work and hanging out at the stables. It's kind of like being a gym rat in the gym as a basketball player. The games are great, but practice, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where these incredible athletes really make the difference between being a really good thoroughbred and an also ran. Coach, I got a couple questions for you. First of all, a general question. So I think the chalk's going to look good today in the SEC tournament, though I will tell you, I think Alabama needs to be really careful of Kentucky in that last game. But my question is this. Back in 2006, when we had Tyrus and Big Baby, and you just had a loaded team, it's great to have the chalk when you come into these things. But these four teams have been off for 5 days? 6 days. How do you approach that as a coach to keep your team fresh so that when they go up against these teams that have been battled the last day or two, that your team is fresh and ready to go when they blow the whistle?
Well, I think you do short competitive segments to keep them on edge a little bit and still make it competitive. And if you don't win that particular segment, there is a slight punishment just to keep them on edge a little bit. Nothing long. And I think a coach reads that about how he knows his team, and he senses that about what's enough in a practice. But a lot of shooting, a lot of dummy work, short competitive segments of specific things that you think you're going to need to do in the game to beat that particular team.
Yeah.
And you don't worry about anybody else. You only worry about the next game and who you're going to play. I never considered what might happen down the road.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we beat that next team. You don't beat the next team, you're not doing nothing. So, but I think short competitive segments and a lot of shooting, a lot of dummy work, and watch a lot of tape of the next opponent. I think those kinds of things are important.
John,
Coach,
how do you
don't have time to install a game plan on such a quick one-day turnaround much, do you? Work on yourself mainly, right?
Yeah, but you and by that time of the year, most teams have seen almost everything an opponent can do. I've always thought you teach defense. Defense is conceptual, and as those situations arise during the course of a game, if you've done enough drill work, you can recognize what's about to happen as a defender. So, uh, but they've seen everything. So I think the main thing is there may be a special inbounds play or something that you've noticed the team has put in the game before or whatever. But most of all, a lot of prep work, and I think a lot of times when we used to whoever their best two players are, we try to scout what they like to do and try to take them out of things and make them do something else that they may be uncomfortable with doing.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, I got a more personal one. Rob, if I could ask one more question,
Yeah.
John. So, John, I know it was a tough year for our Tigers. I listen to you and Chris all the time on the radio. By the way, y'all did a great job on a lot of filler information, which you had to use. I'm sure you were getting kind of deep on that legal pad during the games a few times this year. So what does Mac have to do? What do we have to do to right this ship? Because I still think he can do it. I think he's the guy that can pull this thing together. What do you see Mac having to do, especially in this offseason before we go into next season?
Well, the thing I said before we went off the air the other night, that there is some encouragement for LSU fans because, Missouri is 0-18, and now they're one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the league. If you're go into that portal, you've got to have – you don't have more money than everybody else, but you got to have comparable dollars to the top 5 or 6 teams. I think that's one thing they're going to help him with. The second thing is when you go into that portal, sometimes I call it the path of least resistance. It can make you or break you. So we're going to bring back 2 or 3 players. We signed 3 players early. That gives us a core of about 6. So we got to go into the portal and get 7 or 8 players. And you've got to hit on those, and you've got to evaluate what you need that can help your team move forward. And if you miss on the portal, you're back in a tough spiral. It just goes around in circles. So you've got to do what Missouri did, hit on 5 of the 6 guys that make a significant contribution and change the whole status of your team. Missouri did it. Kentucky didn't have anybody. They went into the portal and got everybody new. They had 4 grad guys out there for senior night. It's no more senior night; it's graduate night. And that's what Kentucky had. They had 4 grads. So, and that's what you got to do. And you've got to evaluate. You've got to be able to pick the right guys that fit what you want to do. And then the second thing with that is when you rely just on evaluation by numbers, you've got to find out what the competitive nature is of that player you're bringing in, and how you gauge that. I don't know if I'd sit with a psychologist and get me a group of questions when I interviewed a player, ask him some questions to gauge how competitive he is, how tough he is, and what he responds to, and I think coupled with the evaluation in terms of talent plus his competitive nature, you've got to be able to bring those type of guys in.
And we got to have a floor leader or two, John. We got to have a floor leader or two. You had them your years. You got to have that guy that steps up and is the bell cow and brings them all together. And I think that's sadly been missing the last couple of years, at least from my standpoint. So
March is all about guards usually.
Yeah, they're hard to find. Let me say something real quick.
John had guards.
And Coach, I got a question for you after this from one of our viewers. And I want to say it about Winter Timber Outdoors. It is turkey season. You know this, Doug. Chasing the ghost. That's what we call it. You got to have all the right gear. Winter Timber Outdoors, Athens, Alabama, growing all over the footprint that is the Southeastern Conference. We got a big store under construction in Auburn. Kenny Winter and the team, great group of investors. And I know some of them, they're serious outdoorsmen, into the dogs, the hunting experience, everything you need from gear head to toe. You can get it at Winter Timber Outdoors. You can go online, take a picture of the QR code, the Rete Masimara GPS, buy one, get one free. They have the ground blinds for your turkey hunting. They have the decoys. They have slate calls, box calls. Doug likes a mouth call, a diaphragm call. But you've got to get it right. The hen's got to sound right so that gobbler will come in there and strut, and you get that shot. And by the way, they sell the Migra turkey loads. I know these people at Migra. Wow, they're making, in my opinion, the best ammunition that I've used. One shot, one kill. Get it all. Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama, open every day of the week. And Coach, and Doug and I talked with Kevin Skarbinski on our AU Undercover show Wednesday, and Doug made a great point. He's a great writer, but don't buy into the bench Chad Baker Mazzara narrative. And I give credit to Doug.
So
he
ridiculous.
Said, in 2010, Nick Fairley out of Mobile, out of Williamson High School, was criticized as the rough guy, the mean guy, because he was dirty. But he was just a big physical player that dominated. How would you handle Chad Baker Mazzara? He's from the Dominican Republic. If you've ever been down there and recruited, as Franz Beard says, because you're guarding a guy with one hand and holding, something to protect yourself in the other. It's tough ball down in the DR. But he's in the SEC, and he's a hell of a player. And, if he's on your team, you love him. But how would you handle him as a coach?
Well, that's a tough question. I don't know him personally, so I would hate to make a judgment of what I would do in that situation. But let me say this: if he's a challenge to coach and has a robust personality, I think he's playing for the best guy who can handle that.
Wow.
I think Bruce Pearl can handle uncomfortable players that are difficult to coach from time to time. And I think Bruce is the best at that, or one of the best at that. So I think Baker Mazzara is fortunate to be playing for Bruce Pearl, to be able to get him to play like he needs to play, and also keep him within the parameters of what Bruce is comfortable with as the head coach. So I think that, he's playing for the right guy, and he should appreciate that.
Yeah, and I love him. I'm a big fan of his, and I'm glad Doug wrote what he wrote and said it. But that's cool to hear it from you, Coach.
That's one of the most. It's very complimentary of your fraternal coaching brother, Bruce Pearl. John, I greatly appreciate the class there. And let me say this to me, the two extremes are, if there's a contingent of mostly Auburn fans that think it's cute, or we just got to let Chad be Chad, that's not right. That was clearly a flagrant two. And it does you no good to try to point out that it might have been in response or retaliation to how he was getting bumped and pushed, because the scout is out on CBM now, Chad Baker Mazzara. Coaches are going to, maybe not all coaches, are going to tell one of their guys, listen, play within the rules, color between the lines, but be physical and be talkative with Baker Mazzara. Maybe it'll trigger him, and we can get one of Auburn's most elite playmakers. And the thing about CBM, when you see him come out of the lineup, it's a different Auburn team, especially offensively, the way they flow. He causes so much problems. He can create on his own when it's late in the shot clock. So I'm glad that we have a sane coach saying, let Bruce Pearl make those decisions. But the idea on the other extreme, away from Auburn fans, that somebody would say, well, for the honor of the game, you need to suspend him from March Madness. Only a rival would hope that Bruce is stupid enough to do that, because you take CBM out, it's an enormous punishment. That's almost condemning this Auburn team to not getting past the Sweet 16. So, I'm one of those that this is a hard one to manage, and maybe it's a different discussion. Do you want to bring him back for next season? Because it looks like he's going to be eligible in the weirdest way, and yet Denver Jones won't be eligible. And you got to love the NCAA. But I think that's the tough part, and I'm going to shut up about it and let Bruce Pearl make those kind of decisions.
Well, there you go. They pay coaches a lot of money now to make those type of decisions. So
you think?
I think Bruce is. I agree. Some players bother coaches more than others by their antics, and some coaches absorb it better. And Bruce is one of those that has the personality to handle it better than some others that I know. So and there's no judgment there. That's just a matter of fact in what I observed, being in this business a long time.
Hey, guys, Rob, I got a pro or a PSA service. Everybody's going to start thinking about filling their brackets out. And what you know when you submit one, don't be that guy that submits 4 or 5 and then only tells you about the one that does well. But go with the sentimental favorite. Your bracket's going to be wrong. So if it's going to be wrong anyway, have some fun. Wofford, I give you the Wofford. I don't know what their mascot.
The Terriers. The
Terriers. But they have a center. I'm sure y'all saw this, Kyler Filowich, who was sucking. Can you say that on air, Rob? FCC is listening in. He was terrible at free throw percentage, and they bring the great Rick Barry in, and the underhand foul shot, which was in the film Hoosiers ruined it. It was not macho enough to try that. Are you listening, Shaquille O'Neal? With Ollie in Hoosiers, if you remember him making those 2 underhand foul shots. What a classic scene.
Awesome.
Rest in peace, Gene Hackman. What an actor. He says, now, Ollie, after you make the second shot, and you are going to make the second shot, perfect psychology. But this kid, his percentage has gone way up, and they are in March Madness. So pick Wofford to at least make the Sweet 16 on the strength of some granny shot foul shots. Why don't players consider innovating like that more, Coach Brady?
I don't know. I'm not a fan of the underhand free throw, but because nobody uses it. I mean, I don't know. Rick Barry did it, obviously, and Wilt Chamberlain tried it for a minute, and I don't know. I've never.
It's just not manly enough. It's just not manly enough. Let's tell the truth.
Hey, Coach, I'm going to test your basketball knowledge trivia. I know you know this because Doug knows it. What was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's real name before he changed it?
Well, Lou Alcindor, I believe.
There you go.
Yeah, good job.
I had his card, and now I can't find it. I also had a card signed by Don Drysdale. But Coach, along the line of what Doug just said, players sometimes take some unorthodox methods. Bucky McMillan, we talked about it a couple of days ago on our show. He lost a lot of guys from last year. But Samford, SoCon, this is where you start really paying attention to basketball. And I think that what I love about March Madness is, like Doug said, the purist, for the good of the game, no, for the good of your career, you need to play Chad Baker Mazzara. Okay. So look who's covering and announcing these games at the SEC tournament. You've got Jay Billis, and I really like Jay Billis. I don't know if you know him, but I think he's a real student of the game. I think he would be a cool guy to sit down and have a few hams beers with. I really do like him. I love the shooter, Pat Bradley, Ron Slay. We've had Ron on the show, Damian Fishback. I love the chemistry that those guys have. They're all warriors. They're competitors against each other. Again, I'm going to make a case. You should be on that set. I think you'd be fantastic on that SEC network set because you bring such, I guess you calm the waters because
somebody who's actually coached, for heaven's sake.
We don't have that. And we need that. And also, you're funny about it. You've got a lot of self-deprecating humor, but you've paid your dues. And I say this every time we're talking. You remember your first 3 years as a coach, what you made. And then later, that all changed. And you appreciate the journey that it took to get there. And that's what makes you so special as a guest and our friend. And I really respect that.
Well, you kind of say that, you talk about Pat Bradley and Slay and
those guys are great.
and Fishback. They were all played when I was coaching.
That's right.
And Fishback will tell you to this day that his senior night at Auburn, we beat them to clinch the SEC championship, and he says I ruined his senior night. and Pat Bradley, I told him the other day, I said, you put 20 on us the second half when I was in Baton Rouge. He said, no, Coach, I put 22 on you. I said, well, come on, give me a break. And Ron Slay talks about Stromile Swift blocking the shot and throwing it in the fifth row, back in the day. So, I would have good banter with those guys because they played when I was coaching. And I've always said this about that SEC. They don't have a coach's perspective when they talk about, what's going on in the game, or they analyze what happened during the game. And I think any coach, would add something to a different perspective from how they see it. I think.
Yeah, it
Coach,
just
if
makes
you
it better.
haven't,
Yeah.
if you guys and your audience, Rob, have not seen SEC Network's Volunteer for Life
Oh
on
man.
Chris Lofton, must see.
Yeah.
But the reason I mentioned that, and you got a lot of Bruce Pearl because he coached the kid 2 or 3 years, but at Tennessee. But in basketball, unlike football, and we were talking about Rob or Duff was asking about how LSU can turn things around with a couple of elite players that you can go get, you can turn it around pretty quickly in basketball. Boy, did Tennessee ever do that. The place was empty. Women's basketball was packing Thompson Bowling, but you could prop your feet up on as a footrest in front of you when the men played, and all of a sudden they Chris Lofton, not just him, but heavily him. Probably didn't hurt bringing Bruce Pearl in, but did they turn it around quick. So comment on Chris Lofton if you remember the player, Coach.
Yeah, I remember when Chris played and we were coaching. That was one of our priorities, was to make it difficult for him. One of my big things is to keep a team out of a rhythm of offense, and anything you can do from a defensive standpoint to keep that from happening, it enhances your chance to win the game. It's not real tricky, but you've got to be able to do it. And my philosophy is always try to make the best player have a difficult night against you, require someone else to beat you that's not used to being in that situation. So our emphasis was always to make it a difficult night for Chris Lofton to score, keep him uncomfortable, frustrate him if we could, and make somebody else beat us. So simple philosophy, but to get that into your team, to do that with a sense of urgency every trip down the floor is the key to me.
And
Good coaching,
he was overlooked. Why? Mainly because he wasn't tall. And coaches have to make hard decisions. You can look at all those measurables, and it helps to have length and all, but he was just a basketball player and a great shooter. Coaches call what you just described, even in football, making your opponent play left-handed, Coach.
Sure, yeah. Bill Belichick won 6 Lombardi trophies doing that. Exact same thing.
Yeah. Make people get out of their comfort zone. I think that's the best coaching advice you can give somebody. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable to win. I mean, because you'll remember it the rest of your life. You'll also remember if you didn't give 110%. You know it. You're the only one that knows it, you and God at the end of the night. But I love that strut. Take the best player, try and take him out of the game, take the guy who's not used to it. That's why coaches, how many times do you say, every one of y'all needs to be ready, because you never know when that guy's going to be out or he's going to get hurt. You got to be prepared. That's a great – you need to write a book, Coach. Frank, would you write the forward for it?
I got it.
Coach,
hey, buddy,
Hey, buddy,
I got one quick question for you. What's going to be the surprise today in these 4 games? What are we not looking for that you think might jump up? I think it's going to be Kentucky giving Alabama all they want in that nightcap.
I would tend to bet the over on that game. I don't even know what it is, but I think it'll be some. I don't know. I think it's going to be an exciting game to watch.
Be 200.
I think Missouri is going to give Florida a game better than people may think, because I think Missouri.
Okay.
I think they defend well. I think they play hard. That's a surprise team in the league. They kind of faded toward the end.
They already beat them once.
Yeah, and they got it right yesterday against Mississippi State. So that's going to be a game I like. It's probably an overlooked game. People assume Florida will win the game, but I think that'll be a fun game to watch. I think Missouri's tough. I got a lot of respect for what they did from last year to this year. So I'm looking forward to watching that game. And to me, I've always thought Texas was the most underachieving team in the league. They've got some players now. They're hitting a good stride right now, and I would assume Texas gets a bid to the NCAA tournament. And I guess right now we'll get 13 teams in.
We'll get 14, Coach. They're lobbying for 14. Golly.
Yes. Texas, Rodney Terry was talking last night on the set with Ron Slay and Fishback and the shooter and Peter Burns, Dari Noak, all those guys. And he said that's the first time they've been healthy in a long time at Texas. And Texas, watching them play this year, they'd be really strong early in the game. Then they would kind of hit a lull, and they would try to make it all up at the last week of class, kind of like, most college students in a semester. But it's tough. And I got to ask you another one. Tennessee, Texas tonight. We hadn't talked about that. Rick Barnes, I'm sure you know Rick Barnes, the man from Hickory, North Carolina. The guy, he and Calipari are the two winningest active coaches in college basketball. And man, Rick Barnes they play the great defense. They're not going to score 90 or 100, but if they can hold you below your average, they can suffocate you. Texas has got, momentum. They've won 2 in a row. What do you think happens in that one tonight? And Frank, that Kentucky-Alabama game is going to be
Track
really,
meet.
really, yeah.
Track meet.
But the battle for UT, who's the real UT?
Well, I don't want to pick a side there, but I think Rick Barnes, if there's one coach in the league that I think closely to how to play the game, is probably Rick Barnes as good as well as anybody in terms of how I play it. There's no correct way to coach it. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but you've got to do it what you believe in and stay true to that. So I think Tennessee will find a way to defend Kentucky. I mean, Tennessee will find a way to defend Texas. Take that young freshman guard out if they possibly can and make it difficult for them to score. So I think Tennessee, over a 40-minute game, is the better team, and I think it'll show up tonight in that particular game.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's the way they defend, and this is not Texas' fault, but you get into day 3, and if a team loves to defend you hard, you just watch the second half. I predict the Texas shooting will fall off a little. You often see that because it's day 3 for them.
Duffy, is the first race coming up?
Yeah, I know. We're getting the alert.
Don't get trampled, Frank. We have women and children, and my dad watching this show.
Hey, look, for us degenerates, they're giving us the changes and the scratches and the overweights for the afternoon. I'm just trying to make it out of here in the morning. I'm getting ready to go see my horse and see how she's doing. But no, talk about Tennessee and Texas. Coach, I know one thing. Texas is still trying to figure out how to score on Garrett Temple from back in 2006. They still haven't figured that out. Kevin Durant's still trying to figure out how to get to the damn hole.
Hey, Frank, yes, I'm going to New Orleans today. I'm going to see Scotty A tonight. We're going to dinner tonight.
Tell my boy hi. I saw him when I was in for Mardi Gras. Always great to see him. I ran into him at Superior Mexican Grill. All of a sudden, I feel his tap on my shoulder. It's Scotty A, man. He's awesome. So, hey, he and I are going to be doing another one of our evergreen shows. I'm going to go down there. He's getting back in the studio in about a week or two, and we're going to cut another evergreen show, which is always fun, man. We get together, and there's just a lot of laughs on that studio.
Coach Frank, we've had the only guy on a show walking through the French Quarter with his fellow mates for the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And this was when we did the Saturday show for 2 hours. And as the show went along, Frank's speech became more and more illegible.
Yeah,
it was as good as it gets.
Duffy, for LSU fans, and I might add Auburn long-suffering lately football fans, I stumbled across the perfect hopeful quote for you.
Okay.
You have to go all the way back to 1601. Miguel de Cervantes, Don Quixote, the great novel Don Quixote. And it goes, which is perfect with this bad weather coming through Tornado Alley and these parts. Quote, all these squalls to which we have been subjected are signs that the weather will soon improve and things will go well for us because it is not possible for the bad or the good to endure forever. And from this, it follows, Duff, that since the bad has lasted so long, the good is close at hand.
I love it. Hey, I love it, man. I'll take all the good we can get, boys.
That's close to That's close to a stock market term we use. It's always darkest before dawn.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
I hope so.
God, I love it. Coach, looking tonight, this SEC tournament, where we are, you've got so much of a focus and an emphasis. And when Mike Slive did what he did in 2014 and said, hey, everybody, up your game. We've got this big deal with the SEC Network and ESPN. It was the best thing that happened to basketball in the South. And I got to ask you, as far as the quality of the players, the kids in the Deep South, when you recruited, who was your competition? Them going to the ACC or the Big East? Because now these kids don't want to leave. And, you've also got Ben Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, George Washington on your side as well.
Yeah, that's a whole different dynamic. I never
I
had to
know.
deal with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying we didn't help some guys from time to time with a few minor things, but
Yeah.
but it's not like where you paying guys $500,000 or $1 million to
Yeah.
come play. That
Yeah.
changes the whole. You can't outwork anybody anymore. You just outbid them. I mean, that's a whole different game. And
Yeah.
we were, and I tell everybody this: the best teams I ever had at LSU, and we had about a 7 or 8 year stretch where we were pretty good, but we were dominated by Louisiana players.
Yeah.
And the last 3 or 4 years, Louisiana hasn't produced those type of players. That Final Four team, our top 6 guys, 4 from Baton Rouge, 1 from Denham Springs, and 1 from St. Martinville. You circle 50-mile radius. We had 6 players that went to the Final Four. I mean,
Coach, are more in the state of Louisiana, are
Louisiana
more of them
hasn't done it what it has done in the past recently.
Yeah.
And I think it's affected Matt McMahon a little bit in the last 2 or 3 years.
I agree.
Are more of the in the state of Louisiana? That's an unbelievable talent state, but are more of them, Coach, playing these great athletes playing football instead of basketball, or is it just random?
Well, they've always done that. I mean, but there were enough guys playing basketball back then. I was fortunate. I had no control over, Brandon Bass, Glenn Davis, Stromile Swift, the Temples,
Jabari,
Daryl Mitchell. I mean, you go on and on. We sprinkled in with Jabari Smith out of Atlanta, to complement some of those players that we had from Louisiana. But, we didn't have to rely on out of state like that. And then this dynamic of transfer portal, money, paying guys, transactional situations. We weren't at that level at all, and it made it different. You could outwork people, and now you just outbid people.
Yeah.
And your 2016 was a true blue collar team, Coach. They brought their lunch pail. They worked hard. I mean, you could see it in every game. Man, they were diving for balls. Big Baby, Tyrus. I mean, they were tough on the glass. You're exactly right. That was a working team with a great work ethic.
Well, it's an example of a team that fit together. They all knew their role. They accepted their role. We had a good flow about us. There was nobody jealous of anybody. It was just, if you coach long enough, hopefully you get to experience that type of environment, that type of team, and it's almost, it's fun to be able to do that. Next year is the 20th anniversary of that Final Four team in 06, and LSU says they're going to do something to bring that team back, and that'll be a lot of fun.
That was a great team, Coach. I'm sure you just thrilled to talking about how consistently fair the referees are in all these basketball games. I know you do. I know you've got a lot of affection for these guys, and you're not coaching. You don't have to be politically correct now because you're not coaching, and LSU's headed home, I guess. But my question is, and the pundits are already talking about it, and they're directing this to the SEC, especially the most elite teams, which is 6 or 7 could make a deep run, if you ask me. But they're saying, listen, in the early rounds, the SEC's got to get used to the refs calling it very ticky-tack, very soft. And here we are. The reason it's the greatest conference, they're saying, in 30 years or whenever, based on metrics, is that we play very physical, athletic basketball. So what can be done to standardize how referees call games, from the start of March Madness all the way to the Nets cut down?
Well, I think as long as they're, just regular old guys like us calling it, it's going to never be perfect. It's going to always be a discussion. It's like, well, we're going to expand the NCAA tournament. I don't care if you expand it to 100. They're going to bitch about the next 10 that didn't get in. So it doesn't really solve anything. Same thing with officials. But I used to stress to my team all the time, if you're counting on the officials to do you a favor, you're kidding yourself. You've got to be better than the officials. We've got to be better than them because by nature they're going to make a mistake. So you can't rely on them to do you any favors. And most of the officials that are in the league now, we kind of grew up together. Some of these guys have been calling 25 and 30 years. We were in there together a long time ago, and I have a good relationship with them. I respect what they do because they're in a no-win situation. And it's a tough game to call now. There's a lot of things going on, but I do stress with my teams, you can't rely on the officials. You've got to be better than them. So don't come to me and say, well, the official. I never entertained that the officials were trying to take the game from us. They may make a mistake, but your team's got to be better than that.
Well, in the offseason, I hope at least they can look. I think they are going to look at this review. It's getting to be 5 or 6 reviews that take way too long. And, can we finish a basketball game in under 3 hours, for Christ's sake?
Yeah, and ESPN doesn't know how to schedule them.
Well, I tell the officials, they come. Most of the officials come over and talk to me when I'm doing the radio with Chris Blair. And I tell them every time, I said, okay, the over-under is 4 on the monitor review tonight. So I said, I've got dinner reservations an hour after the game, so don't be going to the monitor 7-8 times. I got stuff to do.
Buy these refs dinner after the game if it'll get the game over.
Well, if anything, go shake their hands before the game. Go shake their hands and look them in the eye. I used to tell my son that when he was a kid, my redheaded one, because you could get under his skin. He's redheaded, blue-eyed, Irish Catholic. And, man, it just say, shake hands with the refs. It always helps. And I think what Doug and Frank were talking, you're saying, these reviews, they just suck the life out of the game. They're momentum killers. It's like forensic files.
They're like, I got the perfect comparison. To me, they're like some of them. Pat Adams, are you listening? They're like Judge Ito in the OJ trial. They get in love with the camera.
Yeah.
They think of themselves as one of the contestants in the game and love seeing themselves on TV.
Hey, I've been at that private John Brady table in the back at Ruth's Chris in Baton Rouge. You better not delay him from getting to that. I'm just letting y'all know. Hey, that red wine ain't gonna drink itself, brother.
Hey, man, you got to have priorities in life.
Damn
Frank.
right.
Yeah. You gotta have your stuff.
Hey, John, where did you grow up? You're not,
Macomb, Mississippi.
Oh, you're a Mississippi guy, so you're not a native Louisiana.
Well, we were about 40 miles from the Louisiana border, and I grew up going to New Orleans at Pontchartrain Beach back when I was a kid. So that was kind of our escape, going to New Orleans. And so we were about 100 miles from the city.
So you were eating jambalaya as a boy.
Well, yes. I mean, kind of, yes. So,
and let me tell you, we had a little farm in Tylertown, Mississippi. I could have hit a good 3-wood to where John was in Macomb.
Well, for people that are watching the show that don't understand geography,
I think you might need a driver for that one.
If you're from New Orleans, you're like if you're from Jackson, Mississippi, south, you're paying attention to the New Orleans Times-Picayune and all the politics in Louisiana. North Mississippi might as well be Tennessee.
We used to get the TV stations in Macomb from New Orleans, Channel 6, Channel 4, WWL, WDSU. I grew up watching that, so I was more familiar with New Orleans than I was with Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing that I love New Orleans. First time I went I was 9 or 10 years old, and we were on the way back from Destin. My sisters went back with some friends. My parents took me for 3 days. Took me down Bourbon Street. I'll never forget. And these legs, these neon light legs were going back like this. And my dad and I walked by. My mother goes, "Let your dad tell you about that boy." He goes, "Stay out of there. If you go in there, take $1 bills." I was as a kid.
But Rob, nowadays, you don't know what the hell's connected to the other side of the legs. You got to be careful.
I'll never forget. Hey, Coach, Auburn was playing Michigan in the Sugar Bowl, January 2nd, 1984.
Yeah, Donnie Humphrey, the late Donnie Humphrey, defensive lineman for Auburn. It was in the newspapers and everything. Picked up. He had that happen to him, and I mean, it was a story all over the place. But New Orleans is my favorite city in the world. It's the greatest food. The people, I love it. And people in Memphis, my kids go down there because it's 5.5 hours. They'll go down for the weekend. And I mean, you can take the city of New Orleans train. I've taken it to the Sugar Bowl a couple of times, stay out New Year's Eve till 5:30 in the morning and get on the train at 5:45 and just go straight to New Orleans, get a cab into town.
and go to your bed and breakfast and go eat red beans and rice and just keep the flyer, the eternal flame going with a good Dixie beer or good drinks and food. You can't beat New Orleans.
Well, I got to tell
it.
you, John's old place was in the CBD in kind of the warehouse district right behind the Windsor. And let me tell you, I will tell you, I ran into John a few times at Lucy's Bait Shop and Surfer Bar for a cocktail or two. I'm just going to say that.
Or 3.
That was walking distance, Coach.
Hey, Frank, and among other places as well.
That's right. That's right. Hey, look. Hey, Emerald's food ain't gonna eat itself, man. That's right down the street. You can fall out to it.
Coach, you got
this is
Coach,
crazy.
It is hazardous when you come on here with Duffy. He might start kissing and telling about old shenanigans.
Hey, let me tell you. If this you talk about shenanigans, Coach, I got to tell you, this was one of the greatest carnivals I've ever experienced. It was incredible. The security was fantastic. The crowds were great. You know, me and our buddy Lester ride in Bacchus every year. We got a whole big group on the Buccaneer. Coach, they were 20 deep at every turn down St. Charles, the entire way down, 20 deep. The weather was great. It was fantastic. I'm telling you, it was one of the best carnivals I've ever experienced.
Yeah, I couldn't come on Locals Day Friday because we were traveling to Mississippi State. You know, a year ago I was able to be there on Friday and go to Dickie's places and have a good time. But hopefully next year I'll be able to come down on that Friday. That's one of the best days of Carnival right there.
No
Coach
doubt.
Brady, this is no time for being timid. You gotta cast your ballot. Who you got in the Final Four, Coach Brady?
Oh man, I don't even know. There's several teams I like. People ask me all the time about something like that. I don't know. I think you could see 2 SEC teams in it.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, the last time that happened was 2006 with LSU in Florida.
There you go.
So
There you go. You're right.
It wouldn't surprise me if 2 SEC teams show up there.
And it's murky with Flagg's injury. We're all hoping and praying that can be at least 90%, if not full go, by at least maybe the second weekend, because Duke they deserve that opportunity. But that makes it probably a little more likely that an SEC team could make it.
I tell you what, when I see the bracket, I'll pick you a Final Four team to see who plays who, because you never know where they're going to put everybody. So it's a little early yet, but certainly Duke's in that mix. But when they get the brackets out, I'll be glad to pick a Final Four.
Well, good, Coach, because I'm going to need to parlay some winnings here at the track. So I'm going to need a parlay with that. So you got to let me know that Final Four team.
Oh, we're going to do the brackets on here. And Brendan, if you could put that QR code up for the Ernie's brackets. That was on at the beginning of the show. We're going to do brackets on Sidelines. And so, Coach, I know you'll be back on with us next Wednesday. Hopefully we can do that day at 8 if that works for you. But Ernie Sports Media, get your brackets here. So we'll fill those out. I will say this. I think this tournament is going to be one of the more interesting we've seen. I think more people in the South are dialed in on college basketball than I can remember. Growing up in Memphis, we went during an ice storm. It didn't matter, to the Coliseum to see the Memphis Tigers play. And of course, I grew up Memphis and an Auburn fan from birth, but I would listen to WWL New Orleans 870. I've got it on speed dial in my truck. I've always had it because the Clear Channel, 50,000 watts. And I love when you cross Lake Pontchartrain, Bettendorf's or whatever it is, or Mettendorf's. Mendorf's. But all those, I can't remember the names of all these restaurants. You get these foodies will tell you, but there ain't a better food city in the world. And I'm including Paris. I'm including Memphis barbecue, because New Orleans, there's something about those sauces and the whatever. Frank knows all that. I want to go to La Uzi's, and I think we need to do a live show. I want to get that artichoke that you showed me, Frank. What did it have on there? Artichoke with crab meat and stuff?
Well, John will tell you it's a stuffed artichoke. There's a lot of Italian in our food. But look, here's the funny thing. La Uzi's is out by the track. It's literally a block away from the fairgrounds. So, look, man, we can go have a couple of fish bowls at La Uzi's, eat a 30 or a couple of poor boys, walk on over, lose our money at the track, come on back, man.
Man,
I love day.
The cardiovascular doctors love New Orleans.
That's Jazz Fest, man. That would be perfect. We'll do it in May.
I love going there to the deli, and you ask the woman and say, what's debris? And the woman had a big, huge meat cleaver in her hand. She looked at me and she goes, "It's debris." I went, "Okay, I'll take some." You know, right there on Poydras Street by the Hotel Intercontinental, we had our meetings when I used to work for A.G. Edwards. At Mother's Deli. Was right around the corner. And oh my God, I went out one night to a vodka tasting contest. I didn't even remember the rest of the weekend, but New Orleans is about as good as it gets. Coach, we'll wrap it up here now. About out of time. But I got to tell you, this is a lot of fun. And college basketball, Doug, Doug is kind of like my version of Bob Newhart. He'll calm me down. He'll say, Rob,
it's just a game, Rob.
But yeah, don't buy into the narratives. So many people put narratives out there. You got to bench this guy. Really? What about if that was your play?
You got to understand the information war in military strategy. Just don't take the bait every time. By the way, I'll make this hot take. Auburn and Alabama play the tiebreaker on Sunday. They've each won on the road, and Auburn and Alabama meet again in March Madness.
Well, it's gonna be what a weekend, man. It's as good as it gets, guys. Thank y'all all so much. I'm gonna say something about our sponsors, and we'll do it again next week. Appreciate everybody being on here with us.
You and Alexander have a good time tonight, Coach. Y'all have fun, man.
You got it.
Stay safe.
Thank you so much. Hey, let's say something about Landers Ford, people. Brad Bellamy's normally on with us on Fridays. I know he's at a sales conference, but they're open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Get out there. New cars, trucks, and SUVs. Huge inventory at Poplar and Houston Levy in Collierville. LandersFordMemphis.com. The #1 Ford dealership in the Mid-South. Great service department. Awesome people to work with. When you go there, let them know you heard about them on SEC Sidelines to take $500 off. And if you're looking to trade in your vehicle, they'll work with you. They're great to work with. Open every day but Sunday. And Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, another one of our sponsors, down the street on the square, historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Huge 50% off sale going on right now. Great clothes, men's, women's, kids. They've got it all. For executive producer Brendan Martin, we have got momentum going on this SEC Sideline Sports Network channel. Big announcements coming here soon. It's a great team effort. It's not about one. It's about all. We're all in. Share the show. Subscribe. We'll be back Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless you. Monday, special St. Patrick's Day show. It's going to be a lot of fun.